Hey, New Patient Group Nation, welcome inside the broadcast booth. Brian right here, and welcome to Season 4, Episode number 9. Year is rolling along. Personal life is going fast and rolling along. Professional life is going fast and rolling along, as I'm sure it is for all of you as well. We get into this time of the year, and things really just zoom by. I think everyone would agree there's months, for whatever reason, throughout the year that go relatively slow. And then there's months that just scream by. There's quarters that go relatively slow. There's quarters that scream by. Why that is, who knows? But time continues to roll here. We're going to be at the end of the year before we know it. Time is an interesting thing. A long time ago when we had Madeline, well, it wasn't that long ago. She's 4 now. But when she was a little tiny baby up until about, I think it was about a year old, maybe a little bit, a year and a half at the most, she had to wear one of those little helmets because she had flathead. And remember when we were told by the doctors that she was going to have to wear that, Kristen and I kind of looked at each other like, yeah, this kind of stinks. But we also said in the scheme of things, this is not a problem. Like a problem is if there was something obviously really wrong with her. And I bring that up because from time purposes, now that she's 4, when Kristen and I talk about the time she wore a helmet, it literally seems like it was 10 plus years ago. It seems like forever ago when she was wearing that helmet. And that's the example of that's always confused me is sometimes time, if you look at it, it is going so slow. But then on the other hand, time is going just like Speedy Gonzales, right? You remember the old car or the Roadrunner, the old cartoon is just flying by and you can't stop it. You know, one of the things as a business owner, we talk so much is how do you slow time down? How do you manage your time effectively? How do you multiply you? Because there's only one of you, and there's really only one thing on this planet that you cannot get back, and that's time. You can always make more money if you blow it. You can go back and make more, but if you're blowing your time, you cannot get that back. So this whole world that we live in from business owner standpoint is just a blur sometimes, and it's hard to focus on. Not necessarily the right or wrong, but it's hard to just narrow your focus on what you need to look at from a business component standpoint to constantly move the needle in this new economy. So many of you are obsessed, and not the podcast, and this is the beauty of all the New Patient Group family members out there. Hello to all of you. Looking forward to seeing all of you soon. We got our mastermind group coming up, and we'll see everybody Thursday night. The point of me bringing this up is where do you focus on? It can be really difficult. And today I'm going to talk about one thing that you can begin to shift your focus to that makes such a significant impact in this new economy because the best experience wins. There's a lie that's been told to you by your colleagues. If you go watch people speak by big companies, gigantic, massive companies out there that are just trying to grow their company. And I don't think it's literally a lie. So I'm saying that in I guess figuratively speaking, but it's not a lie in that sense. But it is I do think that people actually they actually believe what they're telling you in the topic we're going to be talking about today. This is a very common theme about what you all believe and what you've been told and taught throughout your entire, from professors at your school, if you're a clinician, to just your clinical buddies out there. There's a common theme of, hey, look, without this single thing, you will go out of business. It is the lifeline of your practice. We're going to touch on that today, and we're going to touch on why it's a farce. I want to reset, just like we do. I want to rewire your brain on the business components of your practice to start thinking differently, to have a light bulb come on and go, you know what? He's right, and I haven't thought about that before, and it is a unique way to grow that my competition will not commit to, and it's a great way to lower advertising costs, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we're going to touch on today is what can you do to shift your mindset away from what you think is the lifeline of your practice into what actually is the lifeline of your practice. You're going to enjoy this one today. It'll have a nice impact on your business, and looking forward to a great one. Before we get started, let's fire up the music.
Now, broadcasting to the world. This is the New Patient Group audio experience, where doctors build their dream business so they can enjoy the heck out of their lives. And now your host, he's the founder and CEO of New Patient Group, managing partner of Right Chat, and international motivational speaker, Brian Wright.
Hey everybody, welcome in. hope you're doing good out there. Like I talked about on the top, going to be talking about an interesting topic today that I really am very passionate about, that every one of you out there, whether you are a clinician, an employee that listens, office manager, somebody else from the leadership team, whether you're a rep, whether you're a business owner in a different industry that we also have listen to this show, you're all going to go, yep, he's right. It happens to me really all the time. For whatever reason, though, there's a disconnect, and you'll notice this. Once that light bulb goes on, so yeah, it's happened to me multiple times. It's extremely aggravating. Once you hear that, you're going to go, wow, that's happening inside my own business, my own practice, my own company. And I don't have my eyes on it because I'm so focused on this other area that I've always believed is the lifeline of my business. And there's so many, like I said at the top too, there's so many different recipes that you can choose from out there. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about, so a couple upcoming things that we have, new patient group. I'm going to be at the Orthopreneur event, going to be speaking there. Coming up, actually, I have a brand new series. It's the 7 Steps to Achieving Prosperity. It's an on-demand course that we're going to put clients through. It's an on-demand course you'll be able to purchase off of our MPG University store. And I am going to be doing that abbreviated course, about 45, 50 minutes long on stage at the Orthopreneur event. And, it's all about going beyond your why and the 7 steps. It's the 7 steps on how to break through to maximize the success you're having in your personal life and in your professional career, because the two, as we talk so much on here, the two go hand in hand. You're mad at your girlfriend, you show up to work, you tend to be a little bit grumpy, and you rub your employees the wrong way. You're mad at work, and you come home, and you tend to rub your loved ones the wrong way. And there's 1,000 examples. You get the point on how the two intertwine. It's a very simple belief, is that in order to get the most out of your life and your professional career, both need to be operating as smoothly, efficiently, et cetera, as possible. So looking forward to diving into that. Part of one of the pieces in that is choosing the right recipe. And what that talks about is strategy. And, you can take the worst cook on the planet, and most avid listeners and new patient group family members out there, I'm obsessed with cooking. It's a big part of what we do together when I invite you to the house for mini mastermind sessions. One of the things you can do if you have a fabulous recipe is give it to a bad cook. And will it come out great? Probably not, but it's going to come out edible and at least good, because the recipe, it solves a lot of the errors that the quote-unquote unprofessional or just not good cook would otherwise make. The challenge is identifying which recipe is actually the one to choose. If you're going to make cookies and you're handed 15 recipes, which one of those is the one that's going to, if you follow it, make the best cookies, as an example. It's the same exact thing with business. There's future podcasts about this, but there's a point for me bringing this up now, is you've got all of these different recipes to choose from, different companies, different people, different opinions, different, there's a million different choices out there. And it goes down to which recipe do you need to pick and focus on for your business. It's literally that simple. And so many recipes out there. The other one is timing is everything, meaning that you've got to have the right strategy at the right time. There was a strategy on how to speak on the phones that worked 5-10 years ago that no longer works. There was a way to present money as a TC 5 or 10 years ago that no longer works. So if you pick the strategy that worked 5 years ago and you try to apply it to your practice today, it's not going to work. The same way, if you are a braces-heavy practice, you can still get away with that, but you're getting away with it less and less. The future is clear aligners. So if you take a strategy of opening up a practice today and you're going to be full braces, good luck in this new economy, okay? It's things like that. You've got to have the right strategy at the right time, all right? The timing is just as important as the strategy itself. Well, like I said, the choice or the difficult part is okay, how do I match the strategy to the time? What do I focus on? What can I grab? And there's this constant, I think, internal battle in people's mind of, I've got to be a great clinician, have to be a great clinician, which you do, and hopefully that's something you obsess over. Hopefully nobody out there that's a clinician's like, yeah, just whatever. So hopefully you're a perfectionist there. But like we talk so much about on here is I also want you to be a perfectionist as it relates to your business. And you imagine a scenario, because it's difficult. You have to be a fabulous, and this is that internal battle. I've got to be a fabulous clinician. I have to be a fabulous entrepreneur. I've got to be a fabulous leader. I've got to be a fabulous this and that. And it's hard. It's not easy. And then you're bombarded with 18,000 strategies on what to do and which one to pick. Well, there's some that are timeless. There are some that 50 years from now will always work. And that is stuff with New Patient Group. One of the things we constantly are trying to do is innovate and come up with new ideas. Now, sometimes, as you all know, the MPG family out there, sometimes it's hard. If we're in practices and we're interacting with clients, there's not a lot of time to sit down and actually create new content. But we still do it. Maybe not as much as we would like to, but we still do it. The point is, but there's also some staples, some foundational items that we have inside your MPG University platform, private clients, things like that. There's some staples that also work forever. One of those staples I'm going to be talking about today is going to dispel, like I said at the top, and if you saw the kind of the intro, the teaser video on our YouTube station that's been playing around social media kind of leading into, it's going to dispel, debunk. One of the things that you have heard over and over again in your career is that new patients are the lifeline and the lifeblood, the blood of your practice, your business. And it's an inaccurate statement, and that's what we're going to be diving into today, is shifting your mind away from that. Now, if you're a first-time listener and you just heard me say that, I'm going to keep you from hitting the stop button. I'm never going to listen to this guy again, because there's a lot of the things that we talk about on this show that are very the opposite of what you have been told and taught throughout your entire career. A big part of that is because we come from the entrepreneur world. We don't come from the practice environment. So a lot of the things that we look at are business marketing oriented, and how you apply those philosophies of famous companies, famous entrepreneurs, etc., into the business components of the practice that also help grow the clinical components and get those operating more efficiently, etc. So if you're a first-time listener and you just heard me say new patients are not the lifeline of your practice, they're not the most important thing, you're likely to go, all right, this guy's nuts, I'm I'm out of here. If you're an avid listener, I know you're going to stick with it and hear me out. So let me preference it with this. Obviously, new patients are important. Without them, you don't have a practice. All right, so let's all just get on the same page there. We're all nodding our heads, so we're all in agreement again. New patients are obviously extremely important. But kind of let me paint a picture for a little bit about maybe what your careers look like from a practice ownership standpoint. So obviously, if you're a clinician, you've probably attended quite a few events, at least I hope you have, that are CE-oriented around the clinical components of your practice. If you do Invisalign at your practice, hopefully you are attending, Invisalign clinical courses. You are constantly trying to improve your skill sets there. You're listening to Invisalign speakers, etc. And you're trying to gain and improve your clinical knowledge on that side, or whatever your treatment modality is, and whatever type of doctor you are out there, just using Invisalign as an example. If you're a new listener, I use Invisalign as an example because it's easy to get. Everybody understands it. Whether you're a plastic surgeon, an orthodontist, whether you're an Uber driver going down the street, people know the name. It's almost a 99% brand awareness. So I always, that is my go-to example, because it's easy to, if you're an optometrist, it's easy to fill in the blanks with whatever you're doing out there to paint that image. The point, though, is that you're going to those events, you're getting clinical help. You're going to events or listening to marketing ideas on how to get more new patients, okay? How to close more new patients. And that, for many of you, is the unique thing about New Patient Group is we're a company that not only helps you attract more of the right new patients for your business model. So if your business model is low cost, high turnover, we're not trying to attract a Ritz-Carlton type consumer. They're very different, all right? The marketing is very customized. But then it doesn't stop there, because then they call you or they schedule online. So the program continues throughout on how you're converting and moving the needle forward via every consumer touch point. So it's not just a singular focus, all right? So Today, though, what we're going to be rolling into is also another big part of our program that is lesser known to the non-new patient group clients, and something that I would argue, once installed at a high level, has a greater, much greater, significant impact on their practice than anything you could ever do with your new patients. So back to what I was talking about, and how in that, are you nodding yes, does that sound familiar with your career, where you go to clinical courses and you also are constantly striving to find ways to attract more new patients, to keep that as a steady stream. And then you're also finding and striving to try to find new ways on, okay, how do we convert them? How do we take a shopper, turn them into a value-based buyer? How do we lower new patient no-shows? It's this constant bombardment in the industry of new patients, new patients, new patients. You may Invisalign reps out there. This sounds familiar to you, I'm sure. And practices, this sounds familiar to you if you do Invisalign. Is you've got to use you've got to get an iTero machine. You probably need more than one. You've got to scan every new patient. You've got to do this in your exam. You've got to do this. This is how you present money. It's a bombardment of new patients and starts. And all of that is valid, meaning that all of it, there's value in it. If you don't know how to attract them, the right ones, and you don't know how to close them, obviously you're in big trouble. As you try to run a successful business, if you don't have new clients and you don't close the prospective ones, you're in big trouble. And that goes for our company, your practice, your business, etc. It goes for any company out there. Here's where the mistake comes in. And we all teach experience for a living. I'm experience obsessed to the point where I actually annoy Kristen. If you're a new listener, Kristen's my wife. I annoy Kristen because if we go out to a restaurant, it's like you have this, in my head, you have this expectation on how they should run the place. And whether it be the way the waiters or bartender talks to you, whether it be how they plate their food, whether it be how they speak about their menu, which, by the way, shout out to Dr. Stokes and Dr. Carter, was in their practice this past month. And we went out to, and I'm going to forget the name of the restaurant, so you two can make fun. You two can make fun of me if you're listening. But the restaurant was fabulous. It was on a very high floor in a tall high-rise in Dallas overlooking the city. One of the things the waiter did when he came up, and these are the type unexpected things that we teach, is the waiter came up and did a welcome tour through the menu, okay? And you could tell he was role-played with many, many times because the delivery was beautiful, all right? And he was still a little nervous, so he's probably new to it, but he's effectively implementing it, which in another couple months, he's not going to sound nervous at all. And he gave us this nice welcome tour of the menu, describing it in this beautiful language and making everything on the menu, it kind of turned it into images. Like you're starting to read words, but as you listen to him, he's taking the words on the menu and creating that domino effect that we talk about on how the brain works in images through the words you speak, all right? So the menu started popping. It was almost like it was this 3D menu. These images were coming off the menu. The point is that's unexpected, but the point is, too, it's experience related, having nothing to do with the food. All right, the food that night was excellent. Just overall ambiance of the place, the atmosphere, the overall food experience and non-food experience was exceptional, just like we teach all of you, is that your clinical experience and your non-clinical experience, they have to be exceptional. They have to be innovative, unique, memorable, unforgettable, unexpected. All the time in this new economy. So you talk about this mass focus on the new patients, the new clients, and we talk about over on the other side is this overall experience on the new patients, on the new clients, how you take your perspectives and how you wow them from the time they're shopping online to the way the receptionist speaks, et cetera, down this immersive experience journey that we teach and we talk so much about. The part that you most likely, as you've been nodding yes of, yeah, that's what I do. We try to get better clinically. We look for the best marketing. Hopefully we look inside our doors maybe to role play. So when that new patient comes through, everything's choreographed in a beautiful way. Here's where you're missing out, because part of what you should, from the very first day you open your practice all the way to the last day where you say, I'm selling, I'm cashing out, and I'm going to get rewarded for all the hard work I put in. The focus needs to move. It doesn't mean that you can't focus or you shouldn't focus on the new patients, on the prospective patients? Of course you should. It's a huge part of the new patient group program. The part, though, that should be your goal from the very first day you start your organization, part of your goal is how do I get to a point where I no longer spend money on advertising? Okay. Meaning, yes, you're going to invest and have a beautiful looking website. You have to in this new economy. Okay. Yes, I'm going to make organic, great posts online. Absolutely. You should in this new economy. You have to in this new economy. I am going to invest internally to constantly be improving my skill sets as a business owner, as a leader, my office manager, as an office manager, as a leader, my employees' skill sets clinically and non-clinically. Of course, those are always going to be investments, but the goal you should have is that should be it. Okay, beyond that, as your career progresses along, you should not have to ever invest another nickel in advertising again. And I'm going to dispel something really quick. This is off topic, but there's this notion about pay-per-click out there. We have it, for those of you who are new patient group family members, or you just listen to this podcast a lot or follow me speaking around the globe, is that we are against pay-per-click advertising. And there's a couple reasons. One, if you look at the studies from Forbes, et cetera, millennials and younger generations believe pay-per-click cheapens your brand. Okay, that is a documented fact. All right, so if you want a surefire way to get price shoppers calling you and problem patients calling you, do pay-per-click ads. All right, there is a direct correlation there. Okay. The other one is it's not that you can't grow your practice with it, all right? Pay-per-click will drive you business. That is not what we're saying. What we're saying, though, is that you shouldn't have to do it. So wouldn't it be, if you're sitting there and you're listening, wouldn't it be nice if you do dump a bunch of money into pay-per-click? Wouldn't it be nice if you were able to grow your practice even more than you're growing today while not spending a nickel on pay-per-click, meaning that all that money you pocket yourself or go invest it or bonus your employees, but whatever it is, you get the point. It'd be a pretty nice situation. That's what we're talking about. And part of that is looking at the components of your operation and saying, how do I become an obsessed experience machine that generates organic referrals that transforms my clientele into my ultimate sales machine, where every single month you're getting a referral base coming into your practice that is 80, 90+% of your patients. And we all know referrals coming from good patients lead to sales. Okay, that is in any business. Doctors out there with New Patient Group or with Right Chat, when we get a referral from you, you send a buddy, whatever it may be, we close them. All right, and they're usually 9+ times out of 10, they're excellent clients. It's the same way with you all. Okay, when you get a referral, if you look at the overall journey they have with your practice from the time they buy, do they wear their aligners, do they show up to their appointments, they tend to be better obeying patients, if you will. So what this all leads into is how you're treating, and this is the actual lifeline of your practice. And I want the mindset to be obsessed over what I'm about to say. Obsessed over your customers. Your lifeline are the people that have already purchased from you. They are not the new patients, the prospective patients out there. There's this notion, I got to go out and I got to hunt and shoot more deer and I got to constantly be bringing it. No. If you took what you have in your career, the obsession that you look for on attracting new patients, the obsession that you have over figuring out how to close more new patients. If you take that same obsession and you apply it to your customers, it is unbelievable the transformation that occurs with any company. And it's not about being perfect. God knows we're not perfect, but we sure as heck try. Meaning the number one focus we have as a company is what can we do to enhance our clients' experience, our clients' growth, the relationships we have with our clients out there. We are obsessed over it. I am obsessed over it. And it's this constant, what can we do to obsess over the people that have already purchased from us? And it's a complete reset of the brain because I want to paint a picture. And tell me if this sounds familiar. I'm going to build an image for you. So you walk into your practice. And this is the beauty of this is it's any type of practice. And the day gets started. It's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you're rolling. You look out in your waiting room, and you've got patients sitting in the chairs. You've got Betty and the daughter in there. Let's say you're an orthodontic practice. Betty, the mom, her and her husband bought treatment from you for their 15-year-old teenager. And the teenager and Betty are sitting out in your waiting room waiting for their 11 o'clock appointment. It's now 11:15. You still haven't seen them. It's 11:05. It's 11:10. It's 11:15. Still haven't seen them. Maybe Betty calls there's going to be a podcast, and it's going to be titled, it's probably going to be the next one, probably going to be October's episode. Maybe not. I haven't organized. There's a huge list of content, and it's a matter of picking the one that tries to tell the story based on the last one. So the title of that one's going to be The Real Story Behind Your 1-Star Google Review. And I'm not going to dive too deep into it because I want to wait for that episode. But this is kind of the premise of what I'm talking about right here. Let's say, and here's the thing, is you're not, as a business owner, this is one of these things that you've got to remove the clinical hat, and you've got to put on your entrepreneur hat, and you've got to look in the mirror, and you've got to go, this is happening at my business, okay? The challenge is putting your finger on it. When you can't put your finger on it, like we talk so much about, it's very difficult, like you hear me with the example with Invisalign. It's easy to feel the pain because someone's grabbing $1,500, $1,800 out of your account every time you do a case. That pain is created easily. The pain that's not created easily are all the ones that cost you more than that you don't know about because they're lost opportunities. This is one of them. Meaning that, let's say Betty, she calls your practice. And this is one of the premises of Right Chat, my other company, is that this happens all the time. So we want to take the new patient calls away from you. My agents want to answer those so that they're sitting at your front desk in order to open up hundreds of minutes every single month that you can focus your attention more on your existing patient standing in front of you or calling your practice. Because when Betty calls your practice, whatever, to change an appointment, to discuss something with you, and you get hold please, or probably not even please, you get hold, or you get nobody answer. They have to leave a voicemail. Who knows if they're ever called back? And these things happen every single day in your organization without you knowing it. The point and the premise of this is and this is a prime example from a new patient group standpoint, is we've been open, it's been about a decade now. And not one time has anybody ever reached out to us? And this ultimately proves what we talk about it internally with the team, but this ultimately proves exactly what I'm talking about, is that not one time in a decade has anybody ever reached out to us or seen me speak at an event and walked up after, or listened to the podcast and contacted us, or watched our YouTube station and contacted us, or shopped online and contacted us and said, Brian, or whoever they're talking to with the company, I want to grow and I want to focus my attention and how I'm going to grow on implementing an exceptional existing patient experience. Think about that. What company out there have you ever heard that is obsessed with an existing customer experience, patient experience, client experience? They don't exist. I mean, heck, even us, the reason why we're named New Patient Group, I put New Patient in the title a decade ago because that's what everybody thinks they need to grow. And of course, you need new patients. But, I mean, imagine if I would have said the existing patient group, all right? You would have thought I was a clown. But the reality is that's what you should be obsessing over and looking for solutions to make sure that when Betty and her daughter walk through your door, if their appointment is at 3 o'clock, you better darn well have an assistant or somebody there in the waiting room to greet them at 2:55, ready to go. Because, it's the old bait and switch, right? And you've all had it. That's what I was saying earlier is some of the examples I was going to give. We've all had this happen where we buy from a company and the experience was obviously good enough to get us to buy. And then what happens? You're given a ridiculous 800 number. You can't get a hold of anybody. When you do call the number, they've got this ridiculous recording that tries to get you to move to the website. It's like they do everything they can to avoid speaking with you. Why? Because they want to reduce their, and this is the scam that so many companies just can't see. It's like on the surface, they're saving money by not hiring more agents, when in reality, they're killing themselves, because by having less agents, they hurt the client experience, which means you leave them or you don't spread the word about them. You don't become their sales machine because nothing's unexpected. So it's this whole, and this is the problem with the way school teaches. It's why entrepreneurs function very differently than a lot of business, like an MBA is an example. Because the problem is that if you look at data on paper, it doesn't tell you the full story of how many millions you lose via lost opportunities, because you can't put your finger on it. I did a podcast a long time ago about my story with Delta, meaning that we remember what the one, for those of you who listened to it, when we moved down to League City away from Kingwood, Humble area in Houston. All my miles are on United because we used to live right by Bush. I'm in 4+ cities a month. So you get all these miles built up. We moved down to League City, which is more by hobby, and you have Southwest and Delta that go in there relatively frequently. So it's like, okay, let me maybe I'll start building up my miles on Delta, okay? And I got upgraded one day to first class, and the first class experience was so poor and so much less than what United offered. I said, you know what I'm going to do is make the hour drive just so I could fly United. And the reason I did that was experience-oriented, meaning that Delta thinks they're saving money by offering and nickel and diming people up in first class, when in reality is, and United invests money. They're still the only domestic airline that really wine and dines you up there for the most part, especially on flights that are like 2.5 hours or more. So United's looking at it and going, look, these are investments to attract more people. Delta's looking at it, we're saving, we're going to nickel and dime, looks like we're making more money, but they're losing people like me left and right that they can't equate for. It's the millions and lost opportunity. It happens to companies all the time. That's what I say with Invisalign, who I'm a speaker and consultant for, is that Invisalign loses more revenue via lost opportunities in the city of Houston alone than they make in revenue in the entire state of Texas. Okay, the lost opportunities are enormous. And part of those lost opportunities for you as a practice is this existing patient experience. I mean, when is the last time you sat down and you focused on it? You strategized on it. You looked for solutions. You wanted to make it better. Because we've all had these experiences with companies we bought from, where now you're in, and now the customer service and the experience, it's like, okay, we got you. Now we've got to focus all of our attention on more new patients to close them. And it's like this herd. And if you're a practice out there where your waiting room is just packed with people and you're running way behind, it's something you need to look in the mirror. And it's not that you should be ashamed of it, but you need to look in the mirror and go, I've got to change that. Because here's the thing. Does it mean you're going to go out of business? Like, you may be going, well, Brian, my practice is growing like crazy. We do amazing, and we've got 3, 4, 5 people or families sitting in the waiting room at any given time. Or obviously with COVID, who knows, maybe they're sitting in the car, but you get the point. And we're doing fine. And I tell you, it's not that you can't grow, and it's not that you can't be fine, but it's a couple things. It's one, how do you want your brand represented? Do you really want people packed in the waiting room disrespecting their time? Do you really want to run behind all day with being a chaotic mess? And obviously that's one of the things for practices out there that are clear aligner based versus heavy braces based. It's funny. It's another benefit of going clear aligners is because a lot of these chaoses with having multiple people in the room and, emergency appointments with, brackets breaking, wires popping off, all that stuff go away. So the waiting room just lessens just by doing clear aligners. But you've all had these horrific experiences. You buy a chair for your office, okay? You call after you get the chair because it's a missing part, and you get a recording, which is ridiculous. A live person should answer and say, sir, how may I help you? Or ma'am, how can I help you? Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate your business, being a loyal customer. What can I do for you today? Like, that's how the greeting should be. No, you get a robot answer it that puts you through a bunch of prompts that don't work. And you all hit, and we all do this, we all hit 0 multiple times to try to get to a live person as quickly as possible. The live person finally answers. It's never the right person that can help you. They transfer you somewhere else. That person, if you're lucky, can help you, but after you have to wait another 5+ minutes. It's not an immersive experience like we talk so much for your new patients and for you as a leader, your leadership team, your employees, having this immersive experience that Walt Disney is so famous for. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to the podcast. I think it was last season, and it's the 5 Walt Disney experiences and how to use those to grow your practice. Really good podcast. I think you'll get a lot out of it, or you will get a lot out of it. So you say to yourself, how do I grow in this new economy while lowering my advertising dollars? Because going back to the example of, well, Brian, my practice is growing. Like, how can this help me? Like, I have people in the waiting room, and big deal. So what? And it's the change in mindset. It's the change in attitude to think that you're right. You can grow doing that. Heck, I've seen it with new patient group clients for years before we get to the existing patient experience. In this ortho coach model that we teach so heavily. I mean, the existing patient experience, we get it installed into the new patient group practices. And it's not an easy thing, but when we get it in, oh my gosh, do testimonials, referrals, they go through the roof. Because you're now taking the existing patients and you're giving them an even better experience than the new patients got, and the new patient experience was ridiculous. It's obsessing over your customers. It is such a big mindset shift and such a critical piece to the overall growth puzzle of getting you on autopilot. That's the other thing, is I want all of you on autopilot. I want you to be able to forget the concern of getting new patients. Forget the aggravation that can come along with that. I want it organically pumping out to where you have more than enough new patients every single month to continue 15, 20, 30% growth every year for the rest of your career. The existing patients, your existing clientele, your existing customers are who you need to obsess the most over. If they're waiting in your waiting room, you have to sit down as a team. You say, how can we do this better? How can we do this more efficient? How can we take many of the appointments that we're making people show up for, and how do we turn those into virtually? See, this goes back to why I dental monitoring. And for some of you out there, this is a hard concept because you're stuck 5-10 years ago. Okay, you don't realize what's happening in healthcare and what the future is. And you let your own personal bias on, maybe you don't like the virtual appointment. Maybe it scares you. Well, that's a bias that you've got to get over because the whole industry is going this way. So maybe you have a dental monitoring as an example. Well, guess what? That's convenience, and that's a way to obsess over your customers. Not making them have to come back as much, eliminating things like retainer checks. I love, and this shout out to the great Jet Pascal out there. He was the one that talked about this around me one day. He's like, why would you ever do a retainer check? There's literally nothing positive that can ever come from it. And if you start looking at it and hearing him out with all these different explanations, like, yeah, guy's spot on. How can you turn as many appointments that would otherwise be a person sitting in the chair into FaceTime, dental monitoring, using the Invisalign app, etc.? How can you strategize to make sure that every single time somebody calls your practice as an existing patient, somebody answers? Because there always should be, so if someone's going to lunch, there's got to be a cell phone that somebody handles to answer any incoming calls at lunch. Stagger the lunches. Do whatever you can, but you can't send people to voicemail. What kind of experience is it sending people that have bought from you their hard-earned money to voicemail? It certainly isn't an unexpected one. Is it going to put you out of business? No, but this goes back to how can you make all the touch points unexpected? When people walk through the door for a 3 o'clock appointment, does make-believe name Betty, your assistant, is she there ready to greet them? Do your assistants do little mini video reviews and send it to the parent After every appointment, they're back there with the kid. Hey, Mrs. Jones, this is Betty. Your daughter's ortho coach. Today was really great. A couple things she's doing really well. Few things that we need to work on. Make sure this gets better for the next appointment. It's going to make sure she gets the most out of treatment. Boom. Text that to the parents. They get a video review. The point is there's so many. I just gave you one. There's so many innovative ways to wow your existing customers, clients, patients that are just blown lost opportunities for referrals. And that is a course, actually, that I want you, so new patient group clients inside your MPG University, we are going to be loading something that is all about how to increase. It's right along this pathway. How to increase referrals, ways to increase referrals, testimonials, Google reviews, things like that. It's by Coach Eric. And for those podcast listeners out there that are interested, just email us. Just email Cammy, Cammy, at newpatientgroup.com. You're going to put a subject line, increasing reviews, okay? Put increasing reviews on there and put your name, your phone number, and your email. All right, we'll reach out to you and get you set up with that course. That course is a $97 course. Okay, so it's a very affordable course that you'll be able to keep forever. It's $97 if you're a non-new patient group client for that one particular course. Reach out to Cammy, like I said, Cammy at newpatientgroup.com with those instructions. We'll reach out to you, get you set up with that course. But it's amazing what happens when you implement the things from that course with Coach Eric, in conjunction with what I'm talking about today, which is just a complete reset of the mindset. You know, is it a slower burn? Of course it is. Of course it is. But like, if let's say you're a dentist out there. If you were obsessed over your existing patients, you would never have to worry about filling your hygiene books ever again. Ever. It takes care of itself. They're never going to go somewhere else. If you run on time or early, you do all these little innovative touch points, these little video, using the power of video that we teach so much. And this is such a hard concept for a lot of practices out there, is to see less people. I see it constantly. If you want to have one record year after another record year after another record year, you slow down. Orthodontic practice is obviously different, the way you need to schedule, but the point is, that's why you have to strategize with it. Don't be the practice, don't be the organization that spends all their time obsessing over this new patient experience, and then you forget about your existing patients. And by the way, I'm not talking about, you may be thinking, well, Brian, we're nice to them. Hopefully you are. Hopefully you are, but that's another piece. You know, you need to, how are your existing patients being greeted by the front desk? Are they paid attention to, or is it, hey, you sit over there? You know, is somebody going and grabbing water and bringing it to them? Is somebody offering to make a cup of coffee and bringing it to them? Like, how unexpected are you compared to businesses that have frustrated you after you bought from them throughout the years, that are outside of healthcare? Or even though you're in healthcare, you guys have all been patients somewhere too. What was it like after the new patient experience? Now, the ironic thing is most people's new patient experience stinks as well. But if you've ever bought somewhere, then it was good enough to get you to buy from them. What was it like after? Because it all goes back to so many things that we talk about. Those are the things that your patients, your consumers, your clients, customers, that's what they can relate to. Are you on time when I walk through the door? Does someone really care? Does someone, and the whole point of what you should strive to do, and this is hard. We talk about this internally with New Patient Group, and the bigger you get, you really have to give a crap. That's the other thing. It's hard to be an obsessed, experience-oriented machine. It's hard. It's so easy to I just don't feel like it today. It's so easy mentality to fall into. But this thing we talk about all the time is obsessing over your customers. How do you do it? How do you make them feel? And this is the key. And this is what I was talking about. The bigger you become, the busier you become, the more difficult it is how do you make every single patient, customer, client, consumer, whatever you want to call them, how do you make every single one of them believe they are your only customer, client, patient, consumer? That's what you should talk about always. When Janice and her daughter walk through the door, how can we make them feel as if they were our only patient, customer, client, consumer? Constantly have that running through your head. Do they ever feel like we're too busy? Do they ever feel, which by the way, little off topic, but that's what we do here, because this is actually very on topic at the same time. When a new patient walks through your door and you've got 7 people sitting in the waiting room, what do you think is running through the new patient's head? And these are all things that as a CEO, you have to constantly be strategizing and thinking about. Because I can tell you what runs through their head, because I am one. We come from outside of healthcare, is that they are too busy for me. This is what my journey in orthodontic treatment, or my kid's journey, and obviously it's both, because when the kid's going through it, so is the parent. They're the ones that have to take them to the appointments, etc. So when they walk through there, it's like, okay, this is what our treatment journey is going to look like, a packed waiting room. So this, ironically, the more you focus on getting the existing patient experience right, running on time, running early, etc., it ironically helps you close more new patients, because when they walk through the door and you're a well-oiled machine as a new patient and they don't see people waiting in the waiting room, bam, that's the image you want. That's the image you want. Now, it goes beyond that, of course, but this is how the existing patient and the new patient experience are intertwined. And I see it with our Right Chat customers all the time, where the new patient calls start coming to my call or our call concierge, and they answer it as if they're sitting at your front desk, and they're trained by me. They role play an hour or two every year, and every week, and it transforms the new patient phone call. They are better than your receptionist will ever be, because we role play with them an hour or 2 hours every single week for their entire existence with the company. But the point of me saying that is this: it's now, when the phone rings, you have hundreds of minutes back to make sure you're answering existing patient calls that have already bought and paid their hard-earned money to purchase from you. Ask yourself, how far behind? What does your waiting room look like? Are people calling you and the phones aren't answered? Or when the phones are answered, does Judy, make-believe name, have to put people on hold because another phone call's coming in? Do you have people checking out up front? Meanwhile, your receptionist is on the phone. Like, all of this goes into a non-immersive experience, which is a not good one. All of these things, there's solutions for. But you have to take the mindset and say, look, how can we obsess over our customers? Because this is what happens when you do. If you're an orthodontic practice, obviously, you're not a recurring revenue model in the sense of once they buy from you, they've bought from you. Okay. So the way you become a recurring revenue model is the fact that you obsess so much over them and their experience is so good throughout treatment that they are interacting with you on their social media channels. They are wanting to share stuff of you on their own social media channels as well. They're writing reviews. They are talking at their school. Mom's talking at the baseball games. Dad's talking at, wherever. That's it. And does that work overnight? Of course not. But if you have a community, and imagine every single patient you've ever started referring you 3 additional patients, because that at minimum should be your goal. You have Joey and you have Dad. How do I get 3 new starts from that one family at minimum? And ideally, why they're still in treatment. And there are so many things. Just did a course. It's called the 6 Steps to Conflict Resolution. It's teaching the skill sets on what happens when you're faced with a complaint. And that's next podcast. I'm going to be talking more about that course and the details on how to get it. The course is amazing Because what happens right now if a patient has a complaint? You're not giving me the times that I need for my family. I bought from you. Now I can't get the convenient times. I have a real life story of one of our practices that we'll dive into in that podcast. And see, you got to ask yourself, how are your people handling that? And I can tell you it's not proper, because unless you're role playing with them on the skill sets of what you do, you've all had complaints before, right? You call a business that you've bought from, and you have a complaint, whether it's minimal or whether it's big. And the way people handle it can turn it into a very positive situation or can make a negative situation much more negative. All of that is client experience. Companies do not obsess over their existing customers the way they should. It's like whenever you want to go out and train your people, it's digital workflow, it's financial presentation, it's new patient phone call, it's new patient experience. How often does it pop in your head to go, I'm going to train my people on how to properly handle complaints, on how to properly ask for referrals, on how to properly greet existing patients that have already bought from us when they walk through the door? Like this whole consumer journey of people that have already purchased from you, how often does it cross your mind to obsess over them? And I would argue for most of you, it's few and far between, maybe never. Imagine a world where every touch point you have with people that have bought from you is just brilliance. It leaves them remembering you in a positive light. We had a client, and this is Boyd Whitlock. Shout out Boyd. How you doing, man? Looking forward to seeing you soon at Orthopreneur event. They had a patient. So Boyd it's an interesting practice, amazing practice, doing so well. And he's one of these guys that are just constantly wanting to innovate, but also seeing value in the repetition of the training at the same time. Because that's the importance, is combining the two. And what happens when you're constantly trying to innovate, but also realizing that what you've learned in the past, you have to be repetitive about it. You can't stop, which is the big part of our new patient group model, is that we are not a consultant. You are hiring an employee named New Patient Group. And with that employee, you get all kinds of different things that you otherwise have to hire probably 10 plus companies to do. But we're an extension of your team that's constantly making you practice, role play, hold you accountable for it, et cetera, the things that humans just are not likely to commit to. We do other stuff as well, but our main bread and butter is turning hourly employees into executive level talent. And it's unbelievable what happens. Well, the point of me saying this about Boyd Whitlock's practice is kudos to him, because he has the culture to make sure it's implemented when he and us are not looking. The repetitive practice on the new patient phone call in this instance got a 5-star review from a patient before they ever entered the practice. The patient, hey, I'm buying from this place. I'm blown away with how that new patient phone call went. I'm telling everybody about it, writing a 5-star review, all because of how the new patient call went. Now, take for an instance, obviously that's great, and you should strive to have your receptionist be that great. That's what we do. We create fans of your practice, of your business, before they ever even arrive. But what if that same execution, that same focus, that same strategy, that same role play, the same practices, the same accountability, all went in to how the existing patient phone calls went? Think about that for a minute. Every single time Mrs. Jones calls your practice, she leaves with this immersive experience feeling where she goes and tells people. She talks in her mom's Facebook group, etc. Every time I call that place, it is unbelievable, the hospitality of this place. They answer in 1 or 2 rings. I'm never put on hold. I've never had to leave a voicemail. They're always so hospitable. The verbiage they use is amazing. Whenever I bring my kid there, I never wait. Matter of fact, I don't think our rear end has ever touched a chair in their waiting room, etc. You get the point. All of this goes into reshifting, rewiring your mindset on this falsehood that new patients are the lifeline of your organization. Your existing patients, the people that bought from you, are your lifeline of your organization. And if you focus your attention on that more than anything else you do, it is unbelievable what it happens because it translates back to the new patient experience. You get more of them at a lower cost, and you convert at higher levels because they're coming from your good patients that already bought from you, like I was saying towards the front end. So the action item for all of you out there is shift your mindset into your existing patients. You are not making more money by jamming more patients in a day onto your schedule just because you feel good about yourself. I see this all the time with practices that are dental practices. Okay, if you have 8 hygiene patients in an 8-hour day, as an example, you are never going to maximize your success. It's impossible because those fall behind. The first patient shows up 5 minutes late. It domino effects. You're on the hour every hour. The hygienist is rushing like crazy. Can't get through a proper sales message and education message with every patient. Can't go through a systematic experience procedure because they're rushing like crazy. In an airplane world, when we fly planes, that's a recipe for crashing the plane. You don't have enough time to go through your checklists the same way every time to create consistency from an experience standpoint. You run behind, you will never see people on time. It's not possible. I see this countless times is that when you see 6 instead of 8, practices explode with their growth. Why? Because you have more time to do all the necessary things. Same way with orthodontic practices, just in a different way. Same thing with a plastic surgeon office, just in a different way. Same thing with an optometry office, just in a different way. It applies to all. And honestly, it applies to any type of business. Your experience in this new economy is key to your success. And that means more than the new patients. It means how you're treating the people that have been loyal to you, decided to buy from you when they could have bought from somebody else. That is the key to dominating this new economy of competition, of consumerism, of commoditization in the mind of the people out there in what you offer. Now, if you combine an exceptional clinical experience with an exceptional new patient experience and an exceptional people that have already bought from you experience, if you nail those 3 things, you are going to destroy the competition. Period. And remember, when I say exceptional, it doesn't mean you stink now. That's the other piece. And new patient group clients, I'm not worried about you because you're a master at looking in the mirror and challenging yourself to get better. For many of you out there, it's hard, meaning that it doesn't mean what you're doing now is bad, but it does mean it's not unexpected, innovative, memorable, unforgettable. Via every time a patient talks to one of your employees, are they wowed by it? Are positive situations turned into even bigger positive situations that lead to referrals, reviews? Are negative situations turned into positive growth opportunities? Rewire your brain in this new economy and obsess over the people that have already bought from you. Hope you enjoyed today. Hopefully that reset the kind of the process of how you think about growth. I've seen it in so many practices, so many businesses in and out of healthcare for so many years on what happens when you wow the people that have bought from you. Because remember, all of us have bought from many places that then turned us into secondary citizens, right? So when you buy from somewhere, just put yourself in those shoes. When you buy from somewhere and they then wow you even more afterwards, what would that do for your likelihood of referring people, writing reviews, engaging on social media? And obviously it would skyrocket. All right. Take what you learned today. I appreciate everybody listening out there. Looking forward to the October podcast and looking forward to seeing a lot of the new patient group clients at the Orthopreneur event and many thousands of people that I haven't met before that are podcast listeners. Looking forward to it. It'll be a great event. And I am going to be doing this 7 Steps of Achieving Prosperity I was talking about on stage there. I'm going to be turning that into an on-demand course that I am going to give a link on stage there that will allow you to get that course on-demand, right? If you're watching our YouTube station on the monitor behind me. All right. Well, thanks for your loyalty, new patient group and Right Chat family members. Love you very much out there. And until we talk again, everyone have a great day and bye-bye.